grew up in a city called Munkach. I was the oldest. We were 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. Our whole family did nothing but good things, chesed to people. I mean, this is what we were known for. They'll say Ber Stachman is very well known for Gemilas Chasidim. He had as many as maybe 60, 80 people for our Shabbos. Growing up in Munkach, we had no knowledge of what was going on in the rest of the world. The Hungarians came into Munkach in 1939. That's when my father was taken into the labor camp. I became the man of the house. I was in charge of everything. Had a lot of valuables that I was able to sell and buy some flour, some potatoes, and we shared it with the rest of the family.
When I first heard about my father's father being taken away to the Hungarian labor camps, he was only just bar mitzvahed, and I couldn't imagine how difficult that might have been.
My parents immigrated to Palestine from Romania in the early 1930s. I grew up in Haifa. My family made an aliyah because they had a dream, and they fulfilled the dream to come and to be pioneer in the state of Israel.
My mother's father, Yitzchak Isaac Naed, Zichron Levracha, was a humble and a good man who always had a sefer in his hand and was truly devoted to the family.
The values in my parents' home was to keep the faith strong, love of the land and family.
She learned these beautiful traits from them, and that she continues and to pass that along to her children and grandchildren.
My grandparents were raised worlds apart, yet their values are absolutely the same. My grandmother, growing up in Palestine, always told us how her house was always open to guests. Her mother was so big on achnasas orchim.
When we went into the ghetto, my father was really already in hiding, and right after that, he was gone. We had no idea where we're going, what's going to happen. I buried my mother's diamond earrings, her diamond ring, her wedding ring, and her Shabbos candelabra.
Even at a young age, he was really focused at what he had to do for his family, and he did it.
What kept me going is trusting God and hope that He'll help you, because tomorrow is going to be better. The Klosenberger Rebbe, and we were together in Warsaw. We were in the same barracks. What chances he took day in and day out to hand out the tefillin for hundreds of people. Just put it on and say the bracha and next. Watching him endangering his life made me feel that you got to do something. You got to grow up to be a little bit like him. And that gave me encouragement as well. When we left Warsaw, we were over 6,000 people. Forced march. The minute you stepped out of line, you were shot and killed. My brother, he was a foot taller than me. He said, I had it. I don't want to go any further. Let him shoot me. How I did it, I don't think any human being can explain it. I picked him up and put him on my shoulders, on my back, and carried him the rest of the way, which they tell me was around 70 miles.
His commitment to family and the sense of eternity of the Jewish people that enabled him to carry his brother in that terrible death march.
When we arrived to Dachau, we arrived less than 600 people. All this time, I was thinking only of 2 people, my mother and my grandfather. After the war, at great risk, I was going to Munkach. I'm going to go and look for the valuables, and I started digging. I found it. I threw it all in the sack, and we left.
When my in-laws met, my mother-in-law was coming from Israel on a 3-month vacation from the army.
I just finished my army service.
I went along with her uncle to the airport to pick her up. It was a Sunday, and the minute that I saw her, I felt something, that this is what I'm after.
I would have not stayed in America just to anybody, and I'm still on my vacation 54 years later. It had to be somebody very, very super special.
I gave Ruthie my dear wife my mother's ring just before we got married.
I wear my ring all the time. It has such a sentimental value since it belonged to Sal's mother. I feel as though she is our Melitzat Yosher in Shemaim, our protector in heaven.
One of the values that's always impressed me with my in-laws is the reflection and the connection to the past.
The third time going back to Munkach with my parents was a multi-generational trip together with the grandchildren. Seeing the light in my dad's eyes that not only are we still here, but there's a thriving future ahead of us.
I'm named after my grandfather's mother who was murdered in the war, Liba Breindl. And my daughter, her name is Rija Leah, and she's named after my grandfather's sister. When I see my grandfather pick her up and look into her eyes, I can see that all the neshamas are reunited. The look in his eyes just means everything to me.
In a million years, I wouldn't have believed that I would live long enough to see my great-grandchildren, and I thank God for that every day that I'm here to see it.
What's unique about the charity and the sensitivity of Sal Teichmann and his children is that it's a link in a chain that takes them back to Berish Teichmann. And Berish Teichmann wasn't a regular, simple, kind man. He was a giant of chesed.
Shortly after my bar mitzvah, my father started a ritual before every trip that he takes.
He would bring him a list of charities that the family had committed to and instruct him that if God forbid I don't return,
that he wants to have them fulfilled in its entirety no matter what. As I grew older, I grew to understand the full meaning of that list, and each time that list would be different.
The list that Sal gives to Alan and to Dubi, and the commitment of the family to all their charities and chasadim, shows us that this is a mission. It's the legacy of Berish Teichmann.
Amongst many of the lessons that I learned from Sal, when you take a family that comes from the Holocaust, broken, no money, maybe not great at the language, and it's not a barrier, it's not even a hurdle.
Given my father's history and my mother's dedication, they understand that the only way to ensure a Jewish future is through a Jewish education.
Emek Hebrew Academy, the Teichmann Family Torah Center, is a school I went to when I was younger for several years. My kids went to Emek. You have thousands upon thousands of graduates who now have kids and grandkids who are walking in the Derech Hashem, in large part due to Sal and Ruth. If they did nothing else, amongst all the millions of things they've done, that one piece would be Gan Eden for them just by itself.
Jewish education, Torah study, is understood in this family to be the backbone of the Jewish people.
Rabbi Graydon represents the values that are so important to our family.
The legacy that I like to leave for my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren is to try to follow in the Teichmann tradition. Let them look back who their grandparents were, who their great-great-great-grandparents were, and remember that you have to try to help one another and try to help other people that are in need.